Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can see that it is 9 o'clock and our streaming and recording have begun. You may call your meeting to session.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning, Council. I see we have quorum, so I call this regular council meeting of Wednesday, July the 8th into session. And I ask everyone to please stand for the playing of the national anthem. Thank you. If I may, every time we have the national anthem, it reminds me of we used to have a neighbor, an old German fellow, and he was a bricklayer, and he got a job in downtown Tintern, which is a village of about 100 people. And during this job, took him about a week or two, he spent the entire day singing in German. And everybody would come out, bring him coffee and what have you. And I know if he was in the audience when we played the national anthem, he would be up there singing in this terrific baritone voice of his. So Bob, Councilor Hildebrand, any time, I want you to feel free to do that place.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor, so I can bring out my German.
There we go.
My parents would be proud of me.
There you go. Thank you, sir. Anyway, sorry.
You know, there's several different dialects in German that people in Niagara-on-the-Lake have a different sound than the High German people do that you learn in school.
Well, maybe they could also join you.
Right, they would.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next on the agenda, land recognition statement, and we have Councilor Hildebrand to do the honor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The town of Pelham is situated on the treaty land steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattawanduruk, Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island live and work in Niagara. The town of Pelham stands in solidarity with all the Indigenous people, past and present, acknowledging that our high standard of living is a result of the resources and lasting friendship of Indigenous people. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. I now turn to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Eckert, that the agenda be amended to include item 10.6.4 Niagara Greenhouse Growers Correspondence Greenhouse Permit Fee Increase. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments on this amendment? See none, call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Eckert. Be it resolved that the agenda for the July 8th, 2026 regular meeting of Council be adopted as amended. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you. Call the vote on the adoption of the agenda as amended. All those in favor? See none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to the disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. I'd ask for you to call.
Thank you. After viewing the agenda, does any council member have a pecuniary interest and general nature thereof to declare? I see none, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So noted. That brings us to our presentations and delegations. Our first presentation is with respect to the Old Pelham Town Hall Heritage Designation, and our presenter is Ms. Monica Salvis. She's the planning summer student. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Monica, you have the floor. And thank you for joining council this morning, and thank you for helping the town out during the summer. Oh, and please turn your microphone on. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Mayor, councilors. Just a quick background about myself. I'm this summer's Heritage and Planning intern, and I'm very grateful to be here. Everyone has been really great to me. My background is my undergrad from U of T in architecture, and I have 1 semester left at Willowbank School of Restoration Arts in Heritage Conservation. I'm sure that you're all familiar, at least in passing, with the Old Pelham Town Hall. It's now a community center and event space where everyday memories are made and also marking special occasions. But let's not allow familiarity to overlook the significance of this building. So tangibly, I can speak to the architecture and the specific elements worth preserving, but intangibly, we can also read our history and heritage as a town through this building. Thank you. As a quick introduction, let's address the value of heritage designations and why it's important to designate. Formal heritage designations of a building preserve and enrich our sense of place. Designations provide a property of cultural heritage value with public recognition and legal protection, and heritage should be what guides our growth and development. And practically speaking, what the heritage designation provides is the research to the various layers of history so that we can make informed decisions based on the past for better or for worse. And the designation report and bylaw itself should highlight specific key attributes of the building that tie back to the value of the site. The designation provides a framework for best practices, and future changes like additions and modern amenities are encouraged and actually valued to experience the site to the fullest. Old Pelham Town Hall is a vernacular style building, and what this means is that it's a unique style to the area that reflects local ideas and identities, and it's usually built with local materials by local people. Interestingly, there is a simplified layer of Italianate interpretation. The building expresses Italianate influence through the controlled use of ornamentation. There's a symmetrical composition, projecting eaves with brackets in pairs of 2, tall, narrow windows in pairs of 2, projecting brick pilasters, and decorative dentils. And this is just some detailed shots of some of the pictures. In the wider context, Old Pelham Town Hall, we look to the architectural details to tell us what they can tell us about the building. But in a broader context of Niagara, Old Pelham Town Hall tells us more about the architecture of Niagara as a whole. Communities throughout Ontario desire a town hall that is solid and dependable, but also as current as possible. While this building is a unique representation of vernacular architecture, we also see the interpretation of Italianate elements. It's decorative, expressive, and steady and control. And steadiness and control are qualities of a community that they expect from town governance. Old Pelham Town Hall has noticeable similarities to churches and schoolhouses of the time that it was built. The overall mass and fenestration patterns are extremely striking to the example here. Many settlers in the region were devout Christians, and their taste in architecture likely overlapped between faith and town development. For example, Fenwick United Church, built 10 years later in 1900, is located only 3 kilometers away. The building at 491 Canberra Road is not only an example of town hall architecture, but reflects the broader vernacular architecture in the context of Pelham during that time period. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report. The Old Town Hall is indeed a grand old building. Thank you. Any questions from council to the presenter? Not seeing any. Thank you for the presentation
Thank you,
again.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I turn to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Bernarski, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that council receive the Old Pelham Town Hall Heritage Designation presentation for information. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Once again, any further comments? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to our next presentation. This is the Engineering Design Standards presentation, and it is Mr. Derek Young, Manager of Engineering, presenting this.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to council, Mr. Young. You've been here several times before.
Just a few.
Mr. CAO Cribbs tells me that this is indeed your baby.
Maybe.
Depending how it goes.
Yeah, it goes down. Yeah, we'll take ownership later.
Okay.
Which one do you? Press that, okay. Morning, Mr. Mayor, council staff. Thanks very much. Today, I'm here to present the design criteria and engineering standards. It's been a long time coming. The last one we did was 2017, so it's due an annual update. This creates a foundational tool going forward for staff, contractors, consultants, everybody to follow to ensure that the town is getting the best quality for its assets. So we'll just take it from there. The purpose of the manual is to ensure consistency and how infrastructure is designed across the town. It provides clear direction, as I said, for developers, consultants, and staff. And it ultimately will help ensure the infrastructure is in a safe, reliable, and maintainable condition over the full life cycle of the asset. And it also reduce the long-term costs and risk to the municipality. Next one. Got to be an easy way. Okay. All right. So this is to give you an overview of the engineering standards, comprehensive infrastructure guide. Details, frameworks, planning, construction, municipal infrastructure projects. It ensures the consistency, quality, and standard expectations for submissions, approvals, and construction practices. The manual complements legislation and emphasizes, necessary professional engineering, judgment, and best practices. It undergoes continual review and aligned with evolving regulations and the town's strategic growth objects. So I'm hoping the next one will work. Okay, here we go. So why update the standards right now? As I said, it was previously updated in 2017, and a lot has changed over the last 9 years. The update, that we put in here reflects the current legislation, industry standards, and best practices that we've encountered throughout the last 9 years. It also incorporates climate considerations, including a more robust stormwater and drainage design, which will help our stormwater management systems, our storm networks, and also, try to mitigate as much of the flooding issues we've been having recently. It also aligns with infrastructure requirements with the town's strategic and asset management objectives, which, we had a presentation, I think at the last council, with the updates that we did to the asset management plan. These now align with those, so we're bringing everything in alignment. And also the goal is to ensure that building the infrastructure will perform under future conditions, not just today. So we've kind of built in, with the climate change and the changes that are happening and the storms and so forth, we're trying to adapt to ensure that we capture those. So the scope of the standards, it applies to all municipal infrastructure associated with development and capital projects. So it's not just for development. It covers the capital projects that we have approved through capital budgets, as well as the stuff that we'll be assuming through subdivisions or site plans and stuff like that. It also includes roads, stormwater systems, water, sanitaries, and lot grading. Ensures that the infrastructure is being assumed by the town and meets the consistent and defensible standards. And, operationally as well. We have to make sure that it's operationally in function and that we're not assuming stuff that's deficient or not up to town standards. So the structure of the manual is organized into a general requirements, technical standards, and environmental considerations. It also includes appendices and standard drawings and submission requirements. The structure improves usability and clarity for both staff and external consultants. It also supports a more efficient and consistent review process. So there are individual documents there that the consultants and developers can pull out of there that will help them, check sheets and so forth, that they can benefit from. So the key principles, is that the manual does not replace legislation or regulatory requirements. We're not trying to rewrite what's already in place. We're looking to benefit from what's already in place and enhance our own standards to make sure they work better for us. We're working alongside provincial standards, and there's some of those from the MECP and other agencies as well, which a lot of the stuff from the MECP has now been downloaded to the municipalities, so we're making sure we're compliant with those. And more importantly, the town retains the authority to interpret and enforce these standards in the way that we see them. Everybody interprets things differently and looks at them differently and has a way of skirting around things. We've tried to make these clear and concise, so there is no room for deviating off in any other direction. So some of the key technical highlights that we established. This is one of the ones that came up. This is one we've been working on for a while now. So as you can see on here, there's a 1 in 5 year storm, which is the industry standard right now for designing storm sewers. We also like to look at what happens for the 100-year storm. We'd like to know where the storm water is now going to go, where the overland flow routes are going to be, and things like that. So we've kind of enhanced those quite a bit, which establishes clear stormwater design guides. Systems are designed to handle both frequent storms and extreme events. There's a strong emphasis on controlling post-development impacts and protect downstream properties. Not just the site itself, it's where it goes to afterwards that we have to consider as well. And reduces the risk of flooding and supports long-term infrastructure performance, which means that we're putting stuff in the ground now that's potentially going to last and endure another 50, 60, 70 years worth of storms. With regards to the roadways, transportations, roadway standards are aligned with the national guidance using the TAC code, which is the Transportation Association of Canada. They define the right-of-way widths, design speeds, and cross-sections. There's also increased emphasis on active transportation and road safety, and supports the complete streets and safer communities. So we're looking at ways to enhance and make sure things work better. Environmental and climate, we will get to those. There's a couple of areas that were missed off my slides, which is lot grading was another one, which requires a little bit of a more robust section. That's why, if you look through the standards, it's got its own individual section. Over the last 5-6 years, we've seen a lot of issues with grading and drainage and swales and so forth like that. So we decided to create a section of a standalone for lot grading just to ensure that the criteria is met, it's not lost, and it ensures that people are not having issues with their rear gardens, the swales and so forth. It makes it all a little bit more clearer. So with regards to the environmental and climate, one of the key enhancements of the update is the focus on environmental and climate considerations. This includes promoting green infrastructure and low impact development practices. It also supports climate-adjusted design approaches. So working with Adam, who's our environmental coordinator, he found a website that allows us to establish, we can take the design we have today and put it into their system, and it will generate an IDF curve that predicts what the storm's going to be in 50 years' time to show us how our storm network's going to be. Really great tool. unfortunately, it's not something we can do now, but it gives us an indication of what potentially could happen in 50 years from now. And it also, the measures, helps improve resilience and reduces the long-term risks. And then implications for council. At this moment, the manual provides a consistent and defensible framework and infrastructure decisions. It supports long-term asset management and financial sustainability. It reduces risk related to flooding, infrastructure failure, and maintenance costs. It also ensures fair and consistent requirements for all development. So the next steps, subject to council endorsement, the manual will be implemented by staff. It will be applied to all new development applications going forward, and the document will continue to be updated periodically to reflect changes in the current standards. So if, the government decides to update a load of stuff, then we can look at implementing that. There is OPS Muni, which is going to be released next July, which may have some ramifications on what's in the design standards, so it'll allow us to update those to reflect that. And any questions?
So first of all, Derek, thank you for that report, and obviously thank you for the, had to be at least a week to put that together. And
It took a week to put that together.
yeah, and when I say a week, probably 52 times that. I don't mean to insult you, but I did not read the full report, but I went through all the pages, and the detail is amazing. And I can see how this would help anyone who's going to do any building in this town to have this manual as a guide. Save your department a lot of phone calls. Read the book, and there you go. It's a very comprehensive review of everything. And I like to especially, you included lot grading and the LID, low impact development features that we now require in the town. Excellent manual that you put together. Thank you on behalf of council.
Thank you.
Any questions from any councilors on this work? Not seeing any. I'll turn to the clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a motion put forth by Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be resolved that council receive the design criteria engineering standards presentation for information. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thanks. Again, any comments? Not seeing any. Again, just a final thank you to Derek and your crew for putting together this manual. That's I think it's a great thing going forward for anyone who's going to be doing business in the town. Again, a lot of time, and thank you for your department. Call the vote. All those in favor. I see none opposed. Motion carries.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Our next presentation is from Watson's and Associates, and this is with respect to the building fees. To you, to the presenter.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for joining council this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And you have the floor, sir.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Connor Jacobschuk. I'm a senior consultant with Watson and Associates, who's undertaking your building permit fees review. So the intent of this presentation today is to provide you an update of the building permit fee review from a couple of weeks ago, where we did make a few changes to our costing approach, primarily related to the indirect costs. So the result of that was reducing the overall costs that we were trying to recover through building permit fees, still using that same approach of trying to maintain your current reserve fund balances. So the results on the fees is a downward pressure on those recommended fees. So just to go through this here. Again, the overall goals of the study were to provide fee recommendations that conformed with your legislative requirements, also to balance that need of funding your building department while not having that burden on the tax base, making sure that those fees are reflective industry best practices, and also taking into consideration affordability concerns and competitiveness within the Niagara region. And then finally, just providing that sustainable reserve fund, so you do have that in times where you have reduced building permit volume, so you can fund your department. So you impose your fees, your building permit fees under Section 7 of the Building Code Act, which allows you to recover the anticipated reasonable costs of enforcing and administering the act. So what that means is you can include the direct costs of staff, any indirect costs, any capital costs related to that administration and enforcement of the code. And it also allows you to establish that reserve fund again so that you can fund your building department in those years where you have reduced building permit volumes, just from the cyclical nature of building within municipalities. You may have years where you have higher building permit volumes, where you'd have excess revenues that you can contribute to that reserve fund, and then you may have years where you have lower building volumes where you may need to draw on those reserves to fund the department. So again, the main area that we've made some updates to our approach is looking at or re-looking at those indirect costs. So and the result of that is a reduction of about $85,000 that we've included within our costing approach. So looking how that breaks down between direct costs, that makes up about 85%, plus the other direct costs. Those are things like materials and supplies within your building department's budget. Indirect costs making up about 8% of those total costs, which were previously at about 17%. And then a minor recognition of capital costs of about $13,500. And then in the chart on the right is a breakdown of what those annual modeled revenues would be. So what we mean by annual modeled revenues is we took those historical average applications, the characteristics, so the square footage of the historical applications, and applied that to your current fees to come up with what that would produce in revenue. So that's in that dark blue section of the pie chart. And then in the orange section of the pie chart is that deficit amount. So that would be what your reserve fund would be supporting, as you do have that, you do have those reserves built up already of about $250,000 to fund the department. But if you did not have those reserves, that may go onto the tax base. So again, for our fee recommendation strategy, what we were looking at is to make sure that these are, that you are recovering that reasonable cost of administration and enforcement of the code, while also being able to have a sustainable level of funds within your reserve fund. So right now, your current target balance is 2 times that annual direct cost. But as we presented in a couple weeks ago, what we've targeted was to maintain your current balance of about $1 million in that reserve fund throughout the forecast period, so that we don't exceed comparative municipalities, so you're still within those comparisons. Again, just to maintain that market competitiveness. And then just to give you an idea of how your building permits break down between the different types, primarily the permits the building department receives is those residential permits. So the majority of them being those new residential permits, being about 1/3 of the permits that you receive, slightly less on those residential alterations and additions, but again, that's just under 1/3. And then looking at those non-residential applications, that makes up about 8% of the total applications that you receive in any given year. And then there's also some permits here for other minor permits that don't fall into those major categories, and then demolition permits as well. So before we look at that reserve fund forecast, the way we've gone about this is looking at that those historical permit volumes, looking at what growth forecasts you do have currently. So we looked at the growth forecasts in your most recent development charge background study, and then also discussed with staff what applications you do have in that planning process that they believe are going to come online in the next 5 years to develop this forecast of building permit activity. So generally, it does reflect what you did receive historically, but in that first 5 years, it's anticipated that you'll have some additional high-res developments coming online because they are working through that development process. So we've included some additional permit volumes to be reflective of those new high-density residential permits. And then you'll see in the later half of the forecast that reduce back down to historical levels. So before getting into this too much, to explain what's going on here, on the top chart, we're showing what that forecast revenue and expenses would be. So looking at, for revenues, again, what are those permit volumes? What are the anticipated number of units? What is the anticipated size of those units to develop? And then multiplying that by the recommended fees to come up with what anticipated revenue will you have each year, and comparing that to the expenses that are forecast in our model. So as you can see, in the first year, there will be a slight deficit. And then as those high density residential units come online in the next 5 years, revenues and expenses are about the same. So again, shouldn't have too much of an impact on that reserve fund. But then in the later periods, when we're anticipating those applications to go away, to have some draws from reserves because you're going to have higher expenses than those revenues. And again, on the bottom here, it's showing that same thing, but just what that reserve fund balance is. So with your reserve fund in 2026, starting at just over $1 million, by the end of the forecast period being just under that $1 million mark. So just at a high level, we've included some of the major categories of the fee recommendations. So looking at your new construction non-res permits, excluding industrial, increasing from that $2.06 currently to $2.86, so about a 39% increase. On the residential side, depending on the type of development, your current fees are between $1.50 per square foot and $1.73 per square foot, and moving all of those up to the $2 level, which would result in about a 16 to 33% increase. On the industrial side, increasing that from the $1.92 it currently is to $2.01, so just a minor increase there of 5%. And then on the alteration permits, increasing all of those up to the $1.10 level, which on the non-res side results in about a 135% increase, and on the residential side, about a 197% increase there. And then just a few other notes here. Just some cleanup of your fee schedule for fees that typically aren't imposed. So removing that roof alteration replacement and load occupancy inspection fees, and then adding in that school portables into your fee schedule, because staff thought the per square foot fee under the Group A permits wasn't reflective of the level of effort that is required. So we did look at that separately. So then looking at where that would put you in the comparison, and just to add a little bit more context, we've also added what year each of these municipalities has done their most recent building fee update. So on a 2,500 square foot single detached home, under the current recommended fees, it would bring you from that mid-range up to the top, just below that of Niagara-on-the-Lake and just above the city of Thorold. And what I think is kind of interesting here, and you'll notice this throughout with a few exceptions, is that most of the municipalities that have undertaken recent building permit fee reviews, they're near the top of that comparison, with some of the ones that have undertaken those reviews historically and are due for those updates are on that lower end of the comparison. So looking at Thorold's current fees, they did their last review in 2018 compared to their proposed fees of in that top of the comparison in 2026. So similar story on the residential additions, moving from that lower end of the comparison here, just under the city of St. Catharines, up to just below Niagara-on-the-Lake and above the city of Thorold. And again, similar sort of conversation here where those municipalities that have undertaken fee reviews in recent years are closer to the top of that comparison. And then on the non-res side for a 5,000 square foot commercial development, again, similar sort of situation where you're in that mid to low range, currently moving up to the second highest below the city of St. Catharines and town of Niagara-on-the-Lake, and just above Niagara Falls as well, which is similar to that of the town of Niagara-on-the-Lake. Then looking at industrial, this is one of those ones that there's a bit of an exception because there may be some strategic pricing going on in other municipalities where they are trying to keep these fees low just to try to attract business. So it doesn't follow that same trend of the highest fees being the most recent because there may be some of that strategic pricing going on in other municipalities. But again, with your current fees just remaining in that second highest spot in the comparison here. And similar for farm buildings, staying generally in that same range of where your current fees are, but just moving above that of the city of St. Catharines and below the town of Grimsby, their proposed fees for 2026 and the city of Welland. So just moving up one position from the fourth highest up to the third highest fee. And I will note on this, I apologize, but the hoop houses reference in the subtitle should have been removed here. It should just read greenhouses. So this is just a comparison of the fees for greenhouses within the Niagara region. Again, similar to farm building, just moving up that one position into the second highest above that of the city of St. Catharines and below the city of Welland. So we also like to put this into the context of what is the total fee payable for different development types. So here we've looked at a 100-unit subdivision, including the planning fees, engineering fees, building, and development charges. So on a 100-unit subdivision, the proposed fees would result in about an $831 increase per unit in the total fees payable within the town, which is about a 1.1% increase in the total fees payable. And again, it doesn't affect your position within the comparison. You're still right below that of West Lincoln and above the city of Port Colborne. And similar story for a 100-unit apartment building where that increase in the per square foot fee results in about a $250 per unit increase, which is about 0.5% increase in those total fees payable. And again, doesn't change that position in the comparison of just below Fort Erie and just above West Lincoln. So next steps in the process would be for council to provide staff recommendation on how they'd like to implement fees. So whether you implement the full recommended fees January 1st, or if you take the approach that's presented in the staff report of taking a more phased approach over a couple of years to move towards that full cost recovery level. And then each year to monitor that reserve fund as well as your building permit activity to ensure that when you are contributing to the reserve fund, you do have those higher levels of application volumes and you'd expect to be contributing. If you do have higher application volumes and you're still drawing on reserves, maybe taking another look at that to just ensure that you are funding that department fully. And conversely, if you are over contributing to reserves, to course correct before you do the more comprehensive review in 4 to 5 years. So, any questions?
Okay, thank you for the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I had a question, no, it just disappeared. Yeah, I'll get back to myself. I'll open it to council. Councilor Kerr.
I noticed the percentage dollar allocation that you had come through, and I noticed that the non-residential was at 8%, but what percentage of the dollar income would be relative to that 8%? I'm just trying to get an idea of what the residential contributes to the total amount that's required versus the non-residential.
Right, so the majority of the revenue is at residential because that's where all of your volumes are. I don't have the numbers on the top of my head right now. We can distribute that through staff if you'd like. But the majority of that would be your residential developments providing that funding to the department, just because that's where your application volumes are, right? You may be getting more revenue per application on the non-res side because they are larger, and depending on how large they are and the fees, you may receive more revenue per permit. But again, the majority of that revenue is from the residential side.
Okay, that was part of what I was focusing in on, that it's, if you took the total number of permits, but you looked at the size of the permit,
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
where it kind of comes into play, looking at residential versus non-residential. Okay, thank you.
And what I was going to say, sort of, some of these increases seem a little high, but of course, it's also been X number of years since we've updated, and that has to be taken into account as to kind of a catch-up situation we're in. So I guess what a couple of things that could upset the projections, of course, is this council corporation just applied for a grant reducing our development charges by 60%. If we get that, it'll be interesting to see, will the building take off? And then perhaps, as you alluded to, we end up with a bigger surplus than we intended, in which case we could then revisit the proposals?
Yeah, exactly. So if you are seeing that, like if you are successful in receiving those DC grants, and you do see a lot of new development coming in and you're receiving a lot of surpluses and contributing too much to your reserves, you can always go back and look at that through an interim internally, or again, we're happy to help out if you'd like to do something more comprehensive.
Okay, and I think the CAO has a few words for us.
There's both art and science to this, right? I mean, fundamentally, it's been an exercise based on data, and then there's some amount of discretion about administrative cost and the like going into it. But when the takeaway for me, and why ultimately I think this is highly supportable, is look at the residential cost, and we're suggesting that it's going to go to $2 per square foot. So 1,000 square foot home, a townhouse, say, that's 1,000 square feet, $2, it's $2,000. And what do you get for $2,000? Well, the CBO is present, but basically, assuming there are no problems with the construction, everything's going well, it is 10 and sometimes 11 visits, depending on how the plumbing's structured. So sometimes they can do 2 for plumbing, sometimes it's 1. So take it at the lower, say it's 10 visits, you get 10 on-site visits from a professional. We have to go to them, right? You can't come to us, we have to go to the real world. So that's the price to build a home, that's the actual service. It's the analysis back at the office, it's the vehicle to drive there and back, and you get 10 on-site visits for $2,000. And that's the value proposition, which we think is fair and excellent, and compare that to going to the dentist. You have to go to them, by the way, on that money. Compare that to whatever you're comparing that to, going to the garage and having your car worked on. That is exact, and everything else is a multiple of residential housing. And a typical build is 10 visits on site by our staff. And that's the thing that I think everyone can wrap their mind around. 10 visits, $2,000 on 1,000 square feet. It adjusts up and down based on the size. I think we all live with that. But for a default sort of reasonable starter home, it's $2,000. And that puts us exactly where you saw in that graph. Not the most expensive in Niagara, not the least expensive. And most of the other municipalities are behind us, are working on this. So it's highly likely we're going to get leapfrogged. But this leapfrog for us doesn't really changed the positioning, and I think the value proposition is high. And I think every single resident can understand $200 per site visit. That's just a number, like, you can grasp what the work is, and whether that's a 5-minute or a 5-hour visit, depending on the complex, like, that's just the average, right? But either way, it's a professional out to the location. There's your value proposition.
Okay, thank you, Mr. CAO. Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of questions or observations, and I know you did a presentation to us before, and I think I've asked you these then, but going back to the forecast cost revenue, the orange line that increases, and the green line, the revenue is even for a while, and then that decreases. What have you based your analysis on the increase in costs? What factors go into that?
Well, that's looking at the costs that we developed through that activity-based costing methodology. And primarily, those increases are related to inflation. And then if there is increased staff time spent on those, like I said, we primarily use that increase in the high-density residential developments. So including additional costs there to actually review those, where the revenue had exceeded those costs, so that you do see those align in those 5 years. And then through the final period of that forecast, looking at inflationary increases on the cost side, and then what those fees would be with your annual indexing of your fees.
Okay. And then under the building permit fee comparison, all those comparisons where, at the present time, Pelham is mid-range.
Yep.
And then our proposed fee takes us near the top.
Right.
And I asked you this at your last presentation, but many of the CAO just basically touched on it there, many of the townships, cities, towns that would be behind us,
Yep.
they are in the process of reviewing theirs, and so probably when everything comes out in the wash, we're going to be right around where we are at the present time, somewhere in the middle range. So for those people looking at it and saying, oh my gosh, we're going to the high end, when everything is done and all these municipalities do their reviews, it's anticipated that we're going to come out pretty well in the same position we are, middle of the pack.
Yeah, potentially, without trying to crystal ball what the result of their studies are. But if you do look at when the last reviews were done, Pelham is actually in their your last study was 2017, then Thorold was 2018. You've both undertaken your studies. And then after that, you can see most of them are between that 2020 to 2023 period. So they'll be coming up within the next couple of years if they're working on that 5-year cycle as well.
Okay.
Right?
And lastly, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I like the idea that in these graphs that you've actually added in a dollar figure as well, because when you look at simply the percentage increase, 39% or 97% or whatever it is, you sort of go, wow, like,
Right.
What are we doing here? But when you look at the actual dollar amount, so in a single detached 2,500 square foot home, our proposal is to go from, in 2017, our rate was set, and it's $42.25, and we're actually increasing it to $5,000, so it's less than $800.
Right.
So the percent, it doesn't seem to be quite as bad.
Yeah.
It's still an increase, and I understand that, but it's not quite as bad. And the same thing when you go down to the greenhouses. Right now, for a 10,000 square foot greenhouse, the charge is $5,900. And with our proposal, it's going to go to $6,600, which is about a $700 increase.
Right.
So the percentage seems big, but when you look at the dollar, it's not as huge as some might imagine it to be. Is that correct?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Geez, I got it right. It was all confusing for a while. Okay, thank you very much. Great report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Eckert. Councilor Wink.
So just as a reminder to council, thank you for your presentation, and I'm just going to make a comment. It's not a question, but the last time Watson and Associates presented to us, it was indicated that we would review this again in 5 years. So anytime that you've got a 10-year forecast and we see some slippage, there's potentially that we won't have that slippage because that slippage is starting after 5 years. We're going to be looking at this again in 5 years, not 9 or 10 years. So just keep that in your mind and going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Getting back to Deputy Mayor Eckert's greenhouse, I see on the chart, and I think in your study, we compared the greenhouse charges to Welland, which probably doesn't build greenhouses, or if they do, it's very small. And it did get me to thinking, wondering how these charges relate to the greenhouse growing areas of southwestern Ontario, where they have not only acres, but hundreds of acres under glass. So I was, as a side, I was wondering, I don't imagine you have that on your, in your knowledge. I was wondering if staff could take and get back to council whenever, as to what is the rate. I'm thinking that most greenhouses, you're talking about 1,000 square foot for a house. Well, most greenhouses, when they expand, it's by acres, if I'm correct. Some of the ones I've toured that have just recently expanded, I think one has got 5 or 6 acres under glass. So I was just wondering, and again, the Niagara greenhouse growers, they just represent the flowers and vegetables. They do not represent any cannabis operations at all. But just for my own curiosity, I'd like to see how does that figure compare to the big areas in the Southwest? If we could have staff just send a memo to council. It seems reasonable, but at the same time, we talk about a 1,000 square foot house. Well, greenhouses, like I say, when they expand, it's usually 3 or 4 acres, or at least an acre. And then is that justified over that many square feet when you're talking that big of an expansion? That, if we could have I'd appreciate that. Okay?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can absolutely get you that information as staff. What I will say is I think Connor's explained that, in the industrial world, some municipalities have lower industrial fees because they really focus on industrial investment, whereas the same is, I think, said to be true in agricultural communities that have those large greenhouses. They may have lower fees because they really focus on those large agricultural greenhouse industries. Where we here in Pelham seem to have smaller farms, and we wouldn't have those same opportunities that, say, larger municipalities with greenhouses industries would.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other questions? And of course, like Councilor Wink has brought up, the fact that we are going to be looking at this again brings a lot of satisfaction, I think, to all of us, that we're going to be reviewing. Because as good as your crystal ball is, in 5 years we'll have reality, real data to go by, and we can see how we are level, going down, going up, whatever. So it is great that we'll be able to review this again. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councilor Kerr?
Yeah, it's interesting when you start to play the numbers, just to put in perspective. I have a very close friend. They've just constructed in Niagara on the Lake, and they put in almost 1 million square feet
No. Yeah.
in the last 2 years. So it kind of follows what our planner has said. At certain areas, that's a target that they've been after, and that was the rationale for them going there. But there was also a whole myriad of things of land values, prices, et cetera, that also come into play, not just the permit costs.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions to the presenter? I see none. Thank you, sir, for your time and putting the study together for us and assisting the town with our DC values.
Okay. Thank you very much, too.
I turn to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wing, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Be it resolved that council receive the presentation from Watson and Associates regarding building fees for information. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you. And that was my mistake. It wasn't development charges, sorry, building fees. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does bring us to our delegations, and we do have a delegation before us today from Mr. Frank Amson. He's the president of the Rotary Club of Fawn Hill, and it's regarding planting a peace pole in Peace Park. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Welcome, Frank and Mr. Adamson, to council. You've been here several times. We look forward to this presentation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, councilors, senior staff, thanks so much for the opportunity to come before you today to talk about an initiative that we would like to partner with the town on, and that's in regards to establishment of a peace pole in planting a peace pole in Peace Park. How's that for an alliteration? Peace poles carry the message of peace. May peace prevail on earth in the languages of the world. We propose the message of peace be in English, French, and an indigenous language. They're recognized as the most prominent international symbol and monument dedicated to peace on earth. Peace poles have been originated in Japan in 1956 as a result of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Rotary got involved with peace poles back in 1976. And to this point in time, there are over 200,000 peace poles planted on every continent of the world, including one at the North Pole. Why peace and Rotary? How does that work? Well, it's one of our areas of focus. Most people don't realize this, but Rotary International is the only NGO with a seat at the United Nations General Assembly. Rotary International played a pivotal role in the development of the United Nations, one of only 42 organizations invited to act as consultants at the founding of the San Francisco Conference in 1945. And as I said, it is one of our areas of focus. Something that Rotary does and has done for a number of years is that we offer up to 50 fellowships at a master's degree level at 8 universities around the world. And we offer up to 120 certificate level training, postgraduate, at those same universities. And we've trained over 1,800 people to this point in time. They go on and work for NGOs, they work for the United Nations, they work for UNESCO, and so on and so forth. So we certainly have been involved with peace initiatives for a long time, which a lot of people don't recognize. So the whole idea of a peace pole is it acts as a beacon of hope, inspires people to come together and work towards a more peaceful world. Planning a peace pole often involves ceremonies and community events, fostering unity and shared spirit of goodwill. So in this area, there was a sure where we're going here. Take it forward. Okay, I just want to get to the pictures on there. Okay, yeah, just there. So what we're proposing is that to have a peace pole placed in Peace Park. That just makes sense. Somewhere near the monument that is here. The City of St. Catharines partnered with the Lakeshore Club to do a peace pole this year at the Charles Ansel Park, and as I say, we're proposing to do one here. If it's approved by council, what we would ask is we'll provide the peace pole. We had asked staff to plant the peace pole, and basically some signage on the pole that would speak to what it's all about and why it is there. If it's approved by, thanks, if it's approved by council, basically we would look to hopefully do this on September the 11th. That's the last concert series, which our club is sponsoring. There would be a good crowd here, and so that would be the recommendation. And some sort of signage that could be similar to what you see here for the memorial for former Councillor Mike Schofield. It could be more basic than that, but basically we're asking council to consider that. This is the Peace Pole in Niagara Falls. And then basically, I know you've hopefully received this in your package, but basically it would be the wording similar to what's on here, which is the wording in St. Catharines, to just basically explain what the Peace Pole is about. These would also have a QR code on them so people could find out more about the initiative. So thank you so much for the opportunity to present this, and we're hopeful that we can partner with the town on this initiative.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, Frank. Let me ask councillors, any questions or comments on the presentation? Not seeing, Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Oh, I left my mic on. Thank God I wasn't doing anything. I support this initiative. The Rotary Club has been very active, a great partner with the town on various projects, and continue to be so. I think this is an excellent location for it, and I support this initiative wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. CEO, correct me if I'm wrong, we usually, we get a presentation like this, we ask for a staff report to fill out the blanks in the where town staff would like to see it, and so forth and so on. Any comments?
That is our standard protocol.
Yes. Okay. So myself, council, I like the idea, but I think I'd like to hear from staff as to what maybe there's a better location, not only in Peace Park, but maybe in the town. But let's take a look at Peace Park. Every time we do one of those, we do lose some grass and what have you. So my own thoughts is I would like to see a staff report. We always have a staff report when we're, this is going to be a permanent fixture, and I would like to have some more background in it. That would be my feeling. Any other guests? Councilor Kerr.
Yeah, I agree. It's a wonderful concept. It's a great idea. But like anything, ideas have to be transcribed specifically to paper so that people can evaluate them. You know, and I think what may happen is I've been involved in things where the initial thought was for one thing, and suddenly there was a better outcome as a result of taking a more comprehensive review of this. So I'm following kind of what the mayor says in terms of location, costs, everything associated with it. That's how you make a decision. It's kind of, at this point, the presentation is great, but if you write a blank check, suddenly you don't find out what it is till afterwards. You have to be sure. And I think you can appreciate that as well, that you wouldn't undertake something if you didn't have a complete plan in place. The idea is really what you've brought forward to us, which is great, but I think that's getting a staff report on that is probably the best route at this point.
Thank you, Councilor. Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Yes, thank you. I agree with the staff report. Would that require a motion, or is it just direction from council?
Turn to the clerk.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. The motion attached to this presentation is simply to receive for information. If council wishes to have an amendment, I would suggest that the motion be amended to also include something along the lines, and that council direct staff to review the possibility of planting a peace pole in Peace Park and report back to council by blank date. The next two council meetings for council's consideration would be August 5th or September 2nd.
Do you have the floor?
Yeah, I'd like to make that amendment or that addition to the motion. But if, I would like it as soon as possible. I don't want to put pressure on staff. I know it's, they're very, very busy. I'm just wondering when it could be done, especially if we're considering the possibility of doing it September 11th. And I'll yield to the CAO for that.
Wait, and before we go any further, let's make sure there's a seconder. Well, is there a seconder for the amendment? Oh, Council Wink? Okay, thank you. Good, we have a seconder, and I now turn to the CAO.
Well, someone has to be the bad news bear. Absolutely, we can do a report. Absolutely, we can do it. It doesn't need 6 months. But also, there's this thing called Summerfest, and we have new leadership in the Community Services Department. And we have our biggest thing of the year is 10 days from now. So I don't think the August is a realistic request or expectation, given what has to transpire inside the 3 weeks between now and then kind of thing. So the first meeting in September might well be possible. At least that gives it a snowball's chance. But even we'd need a pause vote from council, and then depending on what that involves, spending some money, et cetera. So September is highly unrealistic if we're being candid. It's a lot more comfortable to suggest we come back in the second meeting of September if we at all can the first meeting of September, but I don't think September 11th is a realistic goal, and I'm sorry to deliver bad news. That's not how I want the day to go, but I'm not sure that's realistic on our part. That would be some combination of, probably Mr. Cook, I think, would take lead in that, has as much to do with the park and facility as anything. But if you disagree with any part of that, Mr. Cook, you are welcome to do so. But if that's substantively correct, then we would try to get it for the first meeting in September. If we're not able to meet that, and I know why that might not be possible, then the second meeting in September, I feel very confident we could do that. But we're just at a very busy time of year, and it's a challenge, frankly.
Yeah, it's a tentative date is just that, a tentative date, and if it has been put, if this does happen, and it does happen a little after your date, so be it, Mr. Adamson. As you know, that's just the way municipal government works. And like I say, I think you got it's a great proposal, but let's make sure we do it right and cover the bases. Before you leave, any other questions? Oh, I see the clerk is ready to jump in.
Yes. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to let council know that the second meeting in September is September 16th. So I have input that into the amendment based on Mr. Cribbs' comments.
Okay, thank you. And so the motion is on the floor. Any other comments on this? Councilor Kerr.
So just the question is no later than September 16th. So it could come to council prior to that, but no later than. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, is that agreeable, Madam Clerk?
Yes, that is how I have it intended. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Not seeing any. Perhaps read the amended.
Most certainly. That the motion be, the full motion in total would be, with the amendment would be it resolved that council receive the Rotary Club of Fawn Hills Peace Pole presentation for information. And the amendment is, and that council directs staff to review the possibility of planting a peace pole in Peace Park and report back to council by September 16th, 2026. So we are on just the amendment right now, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so just on the amendment, any further discussion or questions? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote on the amendment. All those in favor? Amendment passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to the main motion as amended.
Okay, now the main motion as amendment, which means we receive for information and with the amendment. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've used our original movers and seconders for the amendment on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And the vote was none opposed.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that brings us to our first staff report. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Kerr. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2026-0146, designation of Old Pelham Town Hall under the Ontario Heritage Act for information, and that Council directs staff to proceed with designating the property under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, we had the presentation by our summer student. Any further questions or comments on this? I guess any idea of the time frame and cost would be perhaps if council does approve this. To the Director of Planning.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, costs for the process are all included within our budget. And I think we are bringing back September 2nd council meeting will be the bylaw that we will bring back. So we'll give the notice, et cetera, the remainder of the summer.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed, motion carries. Forward we go. Thank you. To the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Eckhart. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2026-0149, Design Criteria and Engineering Standards for Information Report, and that Council endorse the use of the manual as the governing framework for municipal infrastructure design, construction, and approval processes within the town of Pelham. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? Again, this was to the presentation that Mr. Young gave earlier on. Any questions or comments? Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I would first like to congratulate the engineering department on completing the review and update of the town's engineering standards since 2017. While these reports may not attract much attention, engineering are the foundation of safe, reliable, and cost-effective municipal operations. Throughout my engineering career, I learned the value of consistent standards. As an engineering manager responsible for teams in India and in Canada, whose offices worked 24/7 because they were basically 12 hours difference than us, we learned that without standards, we couldn't get the projects done in time. The other operational qualification we had, we were registered under ISO 9001, Quality Management System. That required us to have yearly audits, just like the financial reports we have yearly audits. Engineering gets yearly audited on the quality of your work and your standards that you have. So I'd like to thank the engineering department for their commitment to continuous improvement. It's been amazing. It's been well worth the effort. It took a long time, but it's done, which is good. But I am concluding with a question that I've talked to Mr. Young about, and he has left, in regards to the enforcement of the drawing standards. Because the issue that we seem to run into a lot is lot grading, rear yard swales, and storm water management in the rear of those yards. And to the Public Works Director, do you have the answer that Mr. Young gave me this morning?
To Mr. Marr.
Through you,
Director
Mr.
of
Mayor,
Public
so I probably don't have the answer that Mr. Young gave you, but with respect to lot grading plans, these engineering standards provide more guidance with respect to the development of properties. It includes some checks and balances through the process, and prior to assumption, the inspections and review of those properties to ensure that they meet the grading tolerances that were provided as part of the original submissions. So those are some of the checks and balances that we have in place with this revision of the engineering standards. And so that'll help us to, at least when we assume the subdivisions in the properties, we'll know that they meet the current standard for, and are in accordance with the original drawings and specifications that were submitted at the time of application.
Thank you so much. I have one concluding comment. It seems as though the last guy in the infill development of a subdivision or a lot wants to be the highest, at the highest lot elevation. It creates the most problems for his neighbors. Just a comment. Thank you.
Yes, we have observed that in the past, haven't we? Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Mr. Murray. Any other questions? Counselor Kerr?
Yeah, I think this highlights the need to update this is critical, especially taking into consideration the DC charge reduction in the application we put in, that there's likely going to be a need for additional people to help do an awful lot of this. And this is I consider classic guidelines for a newer person coming in to have a reference material available to them, that there's not the holes that potentially could be there. So I think it really will assist not only our current staff, but potential future staff coming in, of giving them a, so to speak, Bible to work from that will allow them to make the best decisions, and hopefully cut off a lot of the questions that come from developers in advance, because they have something in front of them that hopefully fills in some of the holes. It never fills in all of the holes, but some of it. So I think it's a great movement forward. 9 years is a long time in the building world.
Very good. Thank you, Counselor. Any other comments, questions? See none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wing, seconded by Councillor Eckhart. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2026-0148, Building Permit Fee Study Proposal Fee Changes for Information, and that Council approve the fee schedule Appendix B based on the recommendations prepared by Watson and Associates, and that the proposed new building permit fee schedule comes into effect on January 1st, 2027. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, I'm sort of, just the greenhouse, I'd like to know how we compare, but I'm willing to pass it. And like I say, it's great knowing that we are going to be reviewing this in 5 years. Councillor Kerr?
My only comment was, and I hope that the other councillors went through, there was also in the recommendations Appendix B, there was an Appendix C of the phased-in fee schedule that potentially could be looked at. And I'm just wondering whether we've robustly discussed that potential, looking at it, recognizing a 5-year review would come into it. But is this a mechanism? And I'm only reason I'm potentially thinking of this again is because there's so many things being juggled at the moment in this. Are we going to be successful on the DC charge, which may lead to advanced development at this? But I also, it's really critical for everyone to understand. I recognize the need that we've got to balance the budget in here. We can't be subsidizing a department. We can't be working at a loss leader per se. So there's critical. So I'm just putting that out there that they did provide us with an alternate, at least a phased-in approach, and I just don't know whether that's something that the others have considered as much. I sort of lean to it, but that's me.
Well, yeah, and thank you for bringing that forward, because, that is an alternative that perhaps we, any other comments from any councillors about doing a phased-in approach? I'm not seeing any appetite for it, so I guess I will say no. Okay. No, but thanks for bringing that up, Councillor. Thank you. Okay, so are we doing any further comments or questions? Councillor Wing.
Yeah, so just referring back to the presenter's comments about hoop houses shouldn't have been in his presentation, but hoop houses are also buried within the documentations that we've got here. Now, I received clarification from Andrew. Maybe you want to reiterate that about the hoop houses. And certain hoop houses do qualify for this and others don't, if I'm correct.
Please, Andrew.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Wink. Yes, so after review, from an OBC perspective, we provided this to the Agricultural Advisory Committee last year, that a non-structural agricultural accessory structure comprised of metal or PVC hoops covered in a polyethylene sheeting would be exempt from permit application if the structure did not contain a foundation, was temporary in use, used on a seasonal basis, remained unheated, and was simply used to cover plant material that can be easily removed and is not intended for human occupation. There are some other caveats within the zoning bylaw that they would have to adhere to as well to meet that exemption. If any part of that structure was not exempt, then it would be considered a greenhouse by definition, not a hoop house, falling into that permit fee schedule or category.
Yes.
So just for my comfort then, with us having hoop houses in here, we're still okay?
I think through you, Mayor, I think that was just in the presentation. If you look at the actual approved fee schedule, which is Appendix B, I don't believe that it was included in there. We removed that as a part of the amendments.
So I'm looking at the schedule and special occupancies, categories, new farm buildings, greenhouses / hoop houses.
Oh, okay. I see that now. Yep. We can remove that or amend that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I was quite surprised that that hoop houses made it in here, because I remember the presentation that Planning and Building made to the Agriculture Advisory Committee, and I, more or less, I thought that issue had been, just as you explained it, as long as it fits these categories, it's, town was okay to eliminate the category as such.
Correct.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that.
And thank you, Councillor Wink, for bringing that up. Councillor Kerr?
No, I want to appreciate Councillor Wink bringing that up. Yes, I was at the Ag Advisory, and that was the outcome that Andrew talked about. That was very definitively talked about the fact that hoop houses have never been intended to be a permanent type structure of any sort. So as a result, it really didn't seem to fit within the parameters of this. So if that can be, if the word hoop houses can be removed, I think would be, that I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion passes. Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Bernarski, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. 1C 12/2026, regular council meeting for June 24th, 2026. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you. After viewing the minutes, any councillor have omissions or additions that they would like to see included? Not seeing any, call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to the request to lift consent agenda items for separate consideration. If there are any items that council would like to consider separately to amend the resolutions, now would be the time to call them.
Okay, thank you. After reviewing the consent agenda items, does any councillor wish to lift one or more? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items as listed on the July 8th, 2026 council agenda be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Is there any consent agenda item that you would like to discuss? Councillor Kerr?
Yeah, I guess I just want to highlight 10.6.4 to make it known that this information was available prior to the meeting to us, and that we had a chance to review it, that it's not just a extremely late edition, but in fact had been available to us.
Yep, okay. Thank you, councillors. Any other item that councillors would like to discuss? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would just be looking for the vote on that.
Okay, without seeing any other comments or questions, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that council receive report 2026-0138 GL Klager Park Trail Development for information, and that council approve the proposed GL Klager Park Trail Development in 2026 with funds to be drawn from the Parks Reserve, and that council directs staff to investigate options with the NPCA to identify potential collaborative efforts to reduce the project costs. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. CEO, this is the the first project that we will be doing in collaboration with the Fond Hill Lions on the newly purchased park from them. Any comments outside the report?
Well, I certainly think we should hear from Mr. Cook, but I got to say this is an exciting project, and certainly not just my office, but various members of staff and your office were involved in conversations about a year ago on this file about the potential project, and things seem to be coming to a head now. I think it's highly realistic, and with some creativity by Mr. Cook's office, frankly, I think we found a way. We were looking at a potential very expensive, having to shore up the top of the slope down towards where the creek is, and some creative thinking, frankly, and approach, I think, has greatly reduced the potential cost for this project, but also will help it happen. It's entirely viable to get it done this calendar year, which is kind of wonderful and a good first investment into this new jewel and asset in the municipal park system, and one that, based on certainly my last conversations with the Lions Club, they're quite excited about and interested in. And it's just sort of a really nice coming together of municipal capacity and resources, and a community group that had a vision, and also a conservation authority that wants to make sure as many Niagarans as possible can access green spaces and sort of appreciate the importance of the ecology and the environment, and just a whole bunch of nice things coming together. At any rate, with that, I'd certainly like to hand it over to Mr. Cook, but this is pretty exciting, and frankly, although we are essentially saying we'd like to cannibalize their appropriate resources in a reserve for this purpose, and this project simply wasn't in there because we didn't own this land, right? And now we do, and this is a great sort of first step to helping Clager Park shine just a little bit more.
And before you go, begin your presentation, Ryan, I'd just like to remind Council that this is the final step of the whole revitalization of the headwaters of the 12-Mile Creek, which this council, which this corporation wholeheartedly took part of. We last council provided them $80,000 or $90,000 worth for the engineering. Five organizations had to come together to get that work done. Somewhere along the line, there's pictures of the horrendous erosion that was taking place at that headwaters. I think everyone on this council saw it. And this trail is now, like I say, the final step. You walk the trail, you can look down on a great improvement, gradual slope, tree planting. It's it is indeed a great environmental victory for the 12-Mile Creek, and this town and council deserves accolades for spearheading that. And we signed a memorandum of understanding with the NPCA. No, it was it was with Trout Unlimited, and between us, them, and PCA, and I believe Thorold and the Department of Oceans and Fisheries. It wasn't just a case of ho-hum, let's talk about it for another 5 years. That came together reasonably fast, very fast for a municipal project that had that many organizations in it. And it was indeed a great effort to save a jewel that starts in the headwaters right there at Highway 20. Now, Mr. Cook, your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. Through the mayor. First, I'd like to say I'm happy to bring a report asking for money where something isn't completely blown up. It's kind of nice for a change. But this does give us an opportunity to work with the Lions Club, with the MPCA, and provide some investment and improvement to the park for sure. It also provides an opportunity for someone with accessibility needs to actually view nature in a way that it's not available anywhere else in this town at the moment. So I'm really happy to kind of bring this forward. the moving of the ball diamond really allows us to get this project moving, or the ball diamond fence, the outfield fence, just in a little bit, allows us to get the project moving without having to do a lot more expensive geotechnical study. And then because we're moving away from the top of slope, it will allow us to kind of move forward without having to do a bunch more erosion mitigation that we just did a lot of work on repairing already. So really happy to bring this forward. I think the Lions did a great job with the MPCA to try to develop this trail previous. And I'm glad to kind of to take it from there. But yeah, I think there is a real opportunity to get this up and started, and the vast majority of it can be completed by the end of the year. With some of the butterfly gardens and other things that are proposed might be a springtime plant. But yeah, really excited to get forward on this one.
Excellent. Thank you. Now I'll open it to council. Councilor Wink.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, through you. Ryan, how far in will the right field fence come into the actual ball diamond?
Kind of laid it out quickly through the mayor. It really only has to move maybe a meter and a half. I think at the most it's maybe 2 meters in. The thing with the outfield fence now is it doesn't actually follow a radius. It's kind of like at a 90-degree angle. So I'm really kind of bringing the furthest post in a little bit and then developing a radius around, like typically what we'd find in one of the other town diamonds. The fence always kind of also weaves around some of the lighting poles, so we're going to be moving that back in. So it's more like a typical diamond. It doesn't get any smaller than any of the other softball diamonds in town either. It would fit within the same size.
So do you have any idea on the distance from home plate to the right field fence?
Through the mayor, not off the top of my head, but I did do this. I think it's 85 to 90 meters, somewhere in that.
What's that in feet?
God.
3 to 1.
300 feet.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've played on that diamond in the past, and that's a short fence. You may want to, if you're bringing it in, you may want to consider having a higher fence in that portion, similar to the slow pitch diamond in Harold Black Park. He'd like heck to have someone in a wheelchair going by there, and it's a short fence and whatever. So,
Yes.
just a thought.
Good point, Councilor.
I might actually be able to reach that fence now. Or maybe 20 years ago.
They're not moving the fence that much, Brian. Any other comments on the trail? Not seeing any. I will call the vote. All those in favor? Excuse me. I see none opposed. Motion carries. Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Bernarski. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2026-0147 Station Street Parking Lot Proposal for information, and that Council approve the project to proceed as a change of order for the Station Street reconstruction project estimated in the amount of $250,000 plus applicable taxes, and that Council approve additional funds to construct the Station Street parking through the savings for RD 202 2026 estimated in the amount of $303,753, including non-rebated HST of 1.76%. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Before I open it to council, I will turn to CEO, Mr. Cribbs.
Well, that's kind. You haven't heard enough from me already?
I know you don't. I know you love surprises.
Do I? Do I? Look, this is an opportunity that wasn't anticipated a year ago, or even that long. But, and, you know, I worked at 5 municipalities, and every single one of them, including this one now multiple times over the years, we own land that we didn't know we owned. Every single place. It has something to do with historical records and past lawyer work and a whole bunch of other things. But you end up finding you own unopened road allowances you didn't know about, or at least maybe your predecessor's predecessor did, but there was no good way to explain that to successors, et cetera, et cetera. And at least speaking for myself, this is no different. Didn't understand there was a good portion of municipal land in the area. So there is. The Station Street project, I think, council, you've had it in front of you many times and oft, and you understand how critical, particularly the water and wastewater infrastructure that's part of that is for our future growth, development, and servicing of existing properties, frankly, because of aging infrastructure. So it's a combination of all those things. We get up to the surface, the Station Street project, although it's going to lead to a dramatically better streetscape, safer transportation, more attractive, better drainage, all those things. But the only downside is there is some on-street parking in the vicinity, or at least layabouts, laybys, where I certainly have observed many times and off people stopping to either pick up children at or drop them off, that process. And those are going to be gone as a result of this project. No matter what you do, those are getting removed for the Steve Bauer Trail, curbs, a couple other pieces. So this parking is one way to ameliorate that. And then beyond that, in a more general sense, I don't get the same amount of communication with the public that any of you do, but I think from almost every member of this council, I've heard multiple times, we're increasingly having problems with parking in the downtown, and whether you want to define this as downtown core or not, we can debate, but it's either downtown core or adjacent to it. One of those is true. So we have an opportunity to bring in round about 36 parking spots into the area, which is a fabulous opportunity, I think, subject to your debate, but it is an opportunity, ergo we're bringing it to you. When we realized we had that land, when you look at what's there, no matter what, although the trees are going to stay, what I would describe as foliage, the undergrowth underneath, and the sort of ditch area, those are going. That's part of the urbanization, of course, no more ditches. So the greenery, importantly, the trees are staying, but all the other greenery essentially is, well, right now it's under heavy equipment and there's stuff sitting on it, but it's not coming back. We have an opportunity here we do not have an LID, low impact development parking lot yet in this community. It is something that this council and previous councils have discussed. There are technologies that exist, but we just haven't quite got there yet. And this is an opportunity, I'm sure Mr. Marr will take over momentarily, and he can give you more specifics than I can. But basically, this is an opportunity, and particularly given where it is and given that there was greenery where we propose this parking lot goes, I think it's really appropriate to do that. And then the last piece, this project, I mean, it's a tremendously good story, but it was extremely competitively bid, where we had multiple bids. I don't remember the exact numbers, all of them, but we had multiple bids that came in well under our projected costs. And partially, I think that was because this is during the start of the slowdown in the housing, like all of a sudden there were more people and machines available to do work, but like we got exceptionally aggressive pricing from the contractor. So well more than $1 million ahead. And so there is essentially found money in the savings that could finance all of this. And so we have an opportunity to deliver. We know we're experiencing far more parking challenges around this building. I understand that's been true at the library. I've anecdotally heard about that it's harder to park at the post office. It's not just us. So around here, and I realize that's down the street from us, but this is an opportunity, we think, so we brought it to you for your consideration. I realize the process is unconventional, but frankly, it just happens time and time again that you sort of realize you own bits of land that you don't know you own. And the happy news is we own that's the northwest corner. This land is municipally owned. It isn't, this could be a much higher and better use, and it will, I actually think it has a very strong safety benefit and public utility for the Catholic elementary school down the street and for the parents, probably even the teachers for that matter, but certainly anyone who's interacting with that will feel, although Station Street's going to be a dramatic improvement at the end of it, I think they will feel some of that loss, that functionality, and I think this is a great sort of secondary way to reverse that or reduce that, ameliorate that. Those are certainly the things that guided a lot of the staff thinking about this when we realized there was an opportunity, and we realized there was money that could quite properly be used from this project set aside to pay for this augmentation, if you will. There's a bunch of technical and specific considerations that Mr. Marr understands far better than do I, but in the big picture, I think it'll offset the loss of parking for the school. I think it adds potential parking in or adjacent to the downtown core, and we don't really need to ask for we need your permission to do it. It is spending public resources, but it would still be coming in under budget on the project. So in that sense, one could think of it as a free bonus or just using some of the savings. It has those merits to it. It is unconventional, but frankly, the constructor's already there with the machines in place to lay down asphalt, like they're already there. So there's an opportunity for a very good price as well. And I think those are my comments, if I may. Thank you.
Thank you,
Your
Mr.
Worship.
Cripps. I'll turn to this report was written 2 weeks ago. Mr. Marr, Director of Public Works, any further comments on your part?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I can get into any details that you might want to hear about the parking lot itself and some of the low-impact development features that we're proposing. As part of the parking lot, the concept actually, it really was developed by engineering staff. It was an idea that came up. Contractors typically look for areas for laydown for parking equipment, materials during a construction project, and a lot of times in urban areas, those are hard to come by. So the contractor had approached us about using this piece of land for a laydown area. We started looking into it. Yes, we have this property. And then staff started kicking around the idea of this would be an excellent opportunity and location for a proposed parking lot. If the project doesn't go ahead, the contractor that's using the laydown area now is required to restore back to existing conditions, but it would be a grassed area again. This parking lot would satisfy a number of different parking concerns. It is in the downtown area, so it would help support parking in the downtown area. It would help support events. As the CAO had mentioned, we are reducing, we are eliminating the on-street parking at Station Street, on Station Street. So this would also provide some parking for drop-off and pickup of students at St. Alexander School. I think more importantly, it also provides parking and opportunity for people to use the Steve Bauer Trail. As part of the Station Street reconstruction project, we will be extending the Steve Bauer Trail from Port Robinson Road down to Highway 20 with a raised concrete multi-use path on the west side of Station Street. And this would provide an excellent opportunity for people to park there using the Steve Bauer Trail. When we do get to reconstructing the intersection of Port Robinson Road and Station Street, there's an existing parking lot there that exists. That will be basically right within the limits of the intersection. So it's a very good possibility that when that intersection work gets done, that we would lose the parking for the Steve Bauer Trail that's there now. So either that would have to be relocated to another location, or in this instance, this would be also a good opportunity to provide parking for users of the trail system. With respect to the LID, first of all, we're eliminating some green space, that's for sure. And what we want to try to do is use LID techniques to provide opportunities for water infiltration before it gets to our storm sewer systems. So what we're looking at doing is installing permeable pavers as part, either on portion of the lot or the entire lot. which would help improve infiltration into the groundwater. Also, there is a stormwater collection system, which would lead to a Caltech system, which is an underground storage facility, which promotes infiltration of that water into the base of the parking area. Does have an overflow to get to the storm sewer in cases of major storm events, so there is that protection, but the idea is that we collect the water on site and infiltrate it back into the groundwater prior to it getting to our storm sewers. So those are the couple LID features we're looking at. We've done some preliminary design work on it, and you can see that from the drawings, so that illustrates that process. We're also hopefully going to be working with a consultant that's going to be part of a grant process that we work with them to develop different types of low-impact development opportunities. So that grant hasn't been officially awarded yet, but if it does, it would provide some funding to the engineering department to do that design work and possibly enhance the low-impact development features on the parking lot itself. So those are kind of some of the features with respect to what the parking lot would service, some of the low-impact development. As the CAO mentioned, the mature trees that are to the north, that's not our property. Those aren't being touched. Those are not being impacted. The only vegetation that would be impacted would be along the existing drainage ditch, which is to the west of the property. And that's being cleaned out as part of the Station Street reconstruction project, regardless. So that work is being done, whether this parking lot moves forward or not. So I'll leave that with you. If there's any questions, I can answer those as well.
Thank you for that. Mr. Marr, I will now open the discussion to council. Councilor Kerr.
I appreciate all the comments made by the Director of Public Works. And in my experience with the Horticultural Research Institute of Ontario and some of the work that they had done down at their station in enhanced parking and this LID type stuff, yeah, it would be great to incorporate that. I think it's a very positive approach. I agree that the green or the trees, or to me, maybe more accurately described as scrub, that's invaded the ditch, I wouldn't classify as forested area or renaturalized area. Many of the species that have a tendency to incorporate those types of environments are undesirable plants. Some may think that a willow tree is a good thing unless you've got tile drainage or a septic tank or anything within proximity. Then they're a weed. So it all is a matter of what glasses you wear when you look at it. I think we've identified before there was a discussion relative to the Steve Bauer Trail and parking. We had discussions previously about potentially lands on the west, or sorry, on the south side of Port Robinson Road, but that had a whole series of danger zone markings on it. And having to look at potential parking there, I don't think would be a good thing. This is an opportunity in a fairly central location to take advantage of opportunities for that. The safety for the school. A question that I would have that popped in my mind is in the removal of the parking on Station Street. Because people drop off and pick up their kids, et cetera, will there also be no stopping markings on Station Street for those school people per se? I mean, sometimes what happens is they just have a tendency to pull off the road anyways and stay there. Or if there was no stopping, then definitely this parking area gives them more direction in terms to go to do drop off and pick off. So that's a quick question that I've got for the Director of Public Works.
To the Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the proposed cross-section for Station Street has curb and gutter, barrier curb and gutter. So it's two lanes of travel, and because the cross-section is designed with a multi-use path off-road, there will not be space. You'll be parking in a live lane. So there's the option to put additional signage up along there so people don't stop in the live lane, but you won't be able to pull off the side of the road anymore. You'll be restricted by the barrier curbs.
The reason I highlight that is having gone through things, there's people who have a tendency, they stop anyways. So putting signage up, I think, would be advantageous. I'm very supportive of this. I think it's a great idea. Potentially unbeknownst to many people, I think taking into account, if you're familiar, have had a chance to go in and talk to the people at at Canada Post, that particular facility may not last as long as people think. And as such, some of that parking that's used for events and everything else within this community may no longer be available, just as the private parking is elsewhere. So having a municipal additional parking spaces is probably a very smart thing to have. I'm supportive of it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bernarski.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to echo many of Councillor Kerr's comments, and I'm in full support of this project as well. I think it's a kind of a perfect storm how it's come to. I took the 3-minute walk this morning to go down and check it out. Happy to note that none of the trees, those mature trees that are there, will be touched, and I think many residents will be happy to hear that as well. And then some of the technologies, discussing that with Councillor Kerr as well, of the permeable pavers and such. I think that's awesome. I guess my only question would be, would there be the opportunity to, although we're not touching any of the trees, any opportunity to put trees or things like that within these drawings or plans?
To the Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So what we're showing as part of this report is a concept that we developed with our engineer of record for Station Street. I mentioned that we had applied, the town has applied to for a grant for design assistance for using LID features and reducing impacts on stormwater infrastructure. We actually had a call with them yesterday with the funders, and that's one of the questions they also asked us. So the plans we show right now show full utilization of our property with parking areas. That doesn't limit us to modifying those plans slightly to accommodate additional plantings, rainwater gardens, something like that. So that's something that if we're successful with receiving that grant, we will work with that consultant as well to help formulate a design that would include those features.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Any comments on this side? Oh, okay, Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm fully supportive of this plan as well. I was doubtful going into this where I would stand, but since I learned that all the trees would be saved, the big trees would be saved, which are NPI area, and the fact that I understand there's going to be access off of Station Street to the Catholic school, that's going to be new. Is that correct, Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So during the design process, we engaged the school as a stakeholder. They do have a parking lot that enters and exits off of Station Street. It's very congested, very tight. So we've allowed for, as part of our design, another driveway entrance that would allow them to have another, they call it kiss and rides, so a drive-through for that parking lot that currently sits along Station Street as well. So that is part of the plans as well.
Thank you so much. It's exciting to know we're going to have parking available for people to use the Steve Bauer Trail. That's always an issue. No matter where we have parks or trails, people are parking all over the place. And I think I will be supporting this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, too, was very skeptical. I doubted it. I went to sleep on several nights with Joni Mitchell in my head singing They Paved Paradise, Put Up a Parking Lot. And I wrestled with this even in conversation walking in the door. I didn't know that I would be supportive of this. But I think with the satisfaction that no trees are going to be released or removed, and although we can say that it's not costing us any money, it still is costing us money. Yes, I know we're saving on the Station Street project, but that money isn't then staying in an account or something, it's being spent. But I think the benefits, I've been swayed, let's say, that the benefits of having this parking lot outweigh my doubts about it. So I would be in supportive of this project as well.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Council Wink, comments?
Sure, since I'm the last one, I might as well say something. Yeah, I went over to the property a couple of days ago and had a look at it and satisfied myself that there was no trees coming down. Parking is a big issue that we have in this town. And anytime we talk about any type of construction, people are looking at reducing parking with that construction. There's a big need for parking, and particularly if this is in the future, there's going to be impacts on the Steve Bauer Trail. What limited parking there is there, this is ideal to have some additional parking for there, because even along Port Robinson Road, there's a ton of people who are parking there and utilizing the Steve Bauer Trail. So I'm fully in favor with this. When I went to look at the property, I was concerned about the trees myself, and then I realized that, you know, this is only going 200 feet off of Town Square, and all those other significant trees are going to remain. So I'm fully supportive of this too.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor. And if I may just add my 2 cents, as everyone else on council, I received the same email from our local group, environment group, whom we encourage to interact with each and every one of us. And all I can say is that when it comes to environmental protection, this corporation and this council has gone beyond the norm, and we have championed the environment in many of our projects. Whether we're talking 1.2, 1.4 million for solar panels on the roof, whether we're talking electrical chargers, whatever you want to talk about. Do we have a perfect record? No, we don't have a perfect record, but we do have a realistic record, and I'm very proud of the environmental steps that we as a council and the town as a corporation has taken in the past, and that we will continue to take in the future. That all being said, we have a problem facing us, limited parking in the downtown core, which we want to increase the traffic, increase the use of our facilities. This is a very logical step, and I'm glad to see that council is prepared to take it. Thank you. Any further discussion? I will call the vote. Go ahead, Councillor Kerr.
Since it was unique property that we found that we didn't know about, what was it previously, what is it zoned as? I just wonder.
Any question, any answer to that question?
That's a good question. I'll get back to you on that.
Just
Okay.
Prime agriculture.
Well, if it's not prime ag, well, maybe, you know, I could play the devil's advocate. Well, maybe it's high-density residential potential. No.
Okay. Any other comments? Any reasonable comments? Okay. I'll call the vote. Council, all those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. And thank you for our staff for recognizing this opportunity and bringing it to council for a decision. Thank you. To the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that council receive report 2026-0145 MCC parking lot design build project for information, and that council remove the red circling on project RD 1125 MCC additional parking as approved in the 2025 capital budget, and authorize staff to proceed with the construction of additional parking at MCC without awaiting the sale of land. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on the report? Pretty straightforward. And any words from the CAO just to round things off?
A chance to talk? I'll take that.
Again.
No. Look, this was the subject of multiple reports in the last 7 years. Council made a good, firm decision, and that was, we're cutting the land in two. When you sell the southern portion, we're going to use the funds from that to pave the northern portion and provide the parking that we know is needed at the MCC. We have a parking study that proves that, but anecdotally, we've all been to festivals and events and tournaments at the MCC where we simply don't have enough parking. So we know there's a need, there's a demonstrated need for additional parking. And everyone thought that was a good workable way forward, and frankly, it still can be. If your decision is to just receive and file this report, then we'll carry on with the status quo. That being said, as we all know, development has slowed down dramatically. We've had minor nibbles about 6 months ago, like maybe more than that. But no, we haven't even received an offer on this property. And I think based on at least my own read of the real estate market, it'll be a while yet till that happens. Accordingly, we have this opportunity, what we think is an opportunity. There is a need for the parking, and if we do nothing, it's a year, it's 2 years, it's 3, we don't know. So the other part of your direction was very clear, to do a design build, and we're happy to comply with that direction. Again, you could just receive the report and those instructions stand. It's not that they're bad directions, but you have some alternatives here in the report. And so one of the alternatives is, well, we could just spend the money on the engineering. You recall the red circling process and having quote unquote shovel-ready projects. We have applied for $32 million in funding, and we're very close to completing a $10 million grant application for roads specifically. There's yet another pot of money available. More traditional format, though. Doesn't require changes to our development charges or anything. So we have a potential of up to about $42 million coming our way, and that means lots of other things have had to change. But when you get away from that, we don't currently have a lot of what I would describe as shovel-ready projects for grant opportunities that are presently unknown to us, but they just keep, as you've been here for years, you see unexpected grant opportunities pop up all the time. So as an alternative, again, that wouldn't be design build because it would be us paying for design, so it could be shovel-ready. But then who knows what the future may bring. So that's we threw that in there as an option. Not that your directions are bad, and not that we're trying to be combative with respect to design build. That's not it. But that might be of interest to you. And in the alternative, if we go forward with what we're suggesting at this point in time for additional parking, well, you can decide whether that's design build. Certainly it isn't wait for the sale of land. That's the real change. And I don't know if Mr. Marr has anything to add, or Mr. Cook, with respect to either facilities, or Mr. Marr with the construction process and or how I've characterized things, but that's those are the options available to us. And frankly, a non-decision is fine. We will just carry on with the status quo. We just don't know when we'll be able to deliver more parking. That's all.
Thank you. To the director, any further comments?
Through Mr. Mayor, no, I don't really have any further comments. Just like the CEO had mentioned, we're happy to comply with the design build approach, and that'll involve putting an RFP out, getting a design build contractor in, evaluating their alternatives, their proposals. They would be responsible for doing all the design work ahead of the construction work. So the alternative, again, as the CEO had mentioned, is to initiate the design process now, have a shovel-ready project to move forward with construction when the funding is available. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. And I'll go to Mr. Cook. Any further comments, sir?
Through the mayor, not really. Happy if we get some parking out there. That'd be fantastic.
Okay, thanks. And like the report said, if we do pave it, number one, we do have a bylaw on the books that says that any town-owned parking lot is supposed to be paved. By paving it, we get the market out, probably get a lot more efficient use of the parking lot with designated spots as opposed to I'm going to park here, and the other guy can park wherever. So I think that's a great step. And of course, I'm thinking of, I mean, we all know that parking lot is being used extensively, and to see little kids or children dragging the hockey stuff on top of the gravel be a lot easier if it was paved. And unfortunately, the way the real estate market is, as the CAO said, it's going to be a long time before we, hopefully not, but it could conceivably be a while before we sell the south part of the lot. Myself, I hope that we can move ahead and lift that restriction as a council, and then council will decide as it will as to whether we stick with design build, or with all these pending grants, maybe we do in fact do a pay for the design work and keep our fingers crossed, and maybe the parking lot ends up falling under a grant. So I'll open it to council, and your comments, of course, appreciated. Council Wink.
Yes, as indicated, this has been a long time coming. I remember way back in the previous, at the beginning of the previous term, we were looking at selling this parcel, and council put a hold on that. The way the temporary parking lot is people are just parking wherever they want. It's not efficient use. We could get a lot more parking spaces out of it if it was completed. So I'm in full support of taking the red circle away from this project and getting it done at this time.
And while you have the floor, sir, if I may question, any thoughts about moving ahead? Would you like us to do the design and then wait for a grant, or can leave the design build designation on it?
Do you know what? It's 6 of one, half dozen of another. We could hold everything up and not get the grant anyway. So I would say let's just go ahead with the project.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. Come to this side. Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm rather hesitant in approving the go-ahead for this. We had quite a discussion a year or so ago about this, and we were very concerned about spending. I think there's people here that can tell me a lot better, but I think the construction cost was somewhere north of $800,000. Or am I wrong? 850, okay. And I'm just wondering, I'll ask the expert sitting over there, how we're going to pay for this.
To the Deputy Treasurer with his words of wisdom.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor. As the CEO touched upon this in his comments earlier, we've got a lot of things that are going on right now. So there's savings, there's grants that we've applied for that can change how we fund things from our side. So between all of that, I think there's going to be enough flexibility for us to fund this project with the knowledge that eventually we will sell the land and we will get the money back, with the assumption, I should say. So we will fund it from the roads reserve currently because there's money available. However, at this time, I'm not exactly able to answer if we have $850,000 uncommitted. Like I said, there's a lot of projects that are approved. For instance, council approved $43 million in last year's capital budget. Not all of that will be committed or spent in this year because that relates to a grant that spans over 3 years. So we have some flexibility if council wishes to move forward with this project.
Well, you failed to move me, but I would certainly be supportive of alternative number 2. I would rather see us ready to go and pending approval of some of these grants or savings. I'm just concerned that if they don't come through, you know, we're spending a heck of a lot of money. There's no doubt that it's required. There's no doubt of the willy-nilliness of the way people park out there. You know, it's amazing to me how people can be lined up and then somebody goes completely the opposite direction in the same line. But I'm a little bit hesitant to spend approximately $850,000 without knowing that we have the sale or at least a grant or something like that. So I would be supportive of alternative number 2 at this point in time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Eckert. Councilor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I echo Councilor Eckert's comments. I originally would say go design build, but still it's $850,000. I'd sooner go to alternative 2 and come up with a design and be ready, shovel ready for a project, anticipating a grant with the great success we've been having there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Councilor Bernarski.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I know full well the issues of parking at MCC, live it through much of my life lately. But I agree with Deputy Mayor Eckert, Councilor Hildebrand, that alternative 2, have something ready to go, look to what we have in the future through grants or what have you, and then go that route. So, yeah, I agree with that we need it, but alternative 2 would be my vote.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Councilor Kerr.
I'm kind of following the general trend at this point. I'm a shovel-ready guy versus a complete build. For a variety of reasons, generally design build, yes, the design cost may be lower, but it's not going to be $80,000 lower if it's in a design build. You know, there's a fragment, a type of savings that comes into play. I'm going to go back to my personal experience of working what I call with unregulated parking lots. For those of us that have been involved in large-scale events or agricultural setups where you have people coming in, an example being pick your own, and you're using open land, there are mechanisms to try and encourage, let's say, a little more directed parking at minimal cost that might be or potentially could be looked at. So I just look at that. It's not something as a great thing, but we're identifying a problem of unregulated parking and having people screw it all up. Sometimes it's because when you have no direction, everybody goes in every direction. And they point their vehicles that way. But if you do have some form of minor direction, at least you can regulate or anticipate or encourage more optimum use. So my instinct at this point is to go with alternative 2, which is the $80,000 design build. Who knows what the DC charges? Maybe suddenly our land will become more valuable again because somebody will decide, hey, I got a 3-year window to suddenly jump on buying a piece of property and getting going. That would be also in the vineyard. So I agree with conceptually remove the red circle, but the caveat being that we just do the design at this point and go forward. That would be my feeling.
Okay, thank you. So then, Council, I'm wondering, we've heard that we have grants outstanding, requests for, so perhaps this is an item, Mr. CAO, your thoughts on this. We bring this back 6 months before the budget, or for budget discussions. Would that be, I don't realize staff gets into that now, but is that, council agreeable to that we put it out there a little longer, make it our shovel ready, but sooner or later, it would, maybe a decision will be forced on us that we do have to go another way. And any thoughts on that, Mr. CAO?
Well, the next budget this town does, of course, they're all now mayoral budgets. So someone in your chair will be putting forth the next budget, whomever that may be. Yeah. We can promise to and also understand that no matter what the municipal election outcomes, this corporation 3 years out of 4 tries to do its budget in December of a calendar year so that we can hit the ground running January 1. This is year 4 of the 4-year cycle, and so the budget won't, well, you've already approved a budget process for your successors, but it'll be a budget done next calendar year is when it'll be approved. So that's relatively easily done, or that can be brought in as an option in the 2027 mayoral budget, and that's something that the next council can decide whether that's a strategic priority or not for them, and we can all react accordingly. We've had no specific reason to adjust that project is in there at $850,000 for the parking lot. However, our lived experience of the last year and a half, my words, but getting some head nods, is that the prices we've been getting across the board, whether it's the fire station, that's a building, whether it's been road construction, have been coming in dramatically under our, we had a year where everything was coming in over our estimates because of that huge spike in inflation no one saw coming. There's been a dramatic decrease in the cost of construction that I don't think any of us saw coming either. And so we've been consistently coming in well under, and that $850,000 cost was made, pricing was arrived at by staff back during the peak cost. So it is entirely possible that we're not talking about $850,000. That, like I say, we estimated that at sort of peak inflation, and we've had, in fact, you just dealt with a file where we're well ahead on a road construction, which is asphalt, and what we're talking about. So we're not entirely confident it would come in at 850. It may well be less than that. We put that in there because that's our best, most recent number. You can't just keep constantly changing your data. But that has been our trend. This calendar year has been great for pricing, utterly great. And the second half of last year was very good for pricing too. I don't know if that fairly answers your question, sir.
Yes.
But that's been our lived experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm hearing that option 2 is our alternative 2, however you want. What do you recommend, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I would suggest that it's perhaps an amendment and that the motion be amended to include and that council approve a design assignment in the amount of $80,000 to complete the parking lot design and prepare tender documents enabling the town to have a shovel-ready project in place pending the sale of the property. That language is taken right directly from the report, option 2.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Kerr?
I guess my point, I agree with having it as a shovel-ready project. I just don't think that we need to hamstring and tie it specifically to the sale of the property.
Yeah.
I would just like to say, yes, I'd like to have the design done now, and then it can be evaluated. If we tied it to the sale of the property, we've basically tied our hands behind our back and not have any flexibility. So that would be my suggested change.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. Any other comments? And myself, I agree with Councilor Wink when he said that we should just bite the bullet and get it done. We have had some great pricing this year, and as Mr. CEO said, it might be 500,000, might be 850, might be $1 million. Obviously, when we do put this back on the books, we'll get an updated version of what it is. We do have a $40 million facility, and we're asking people to do unregulated parking in a gravel lot, and then welcome to the great jewel in the Niagara Peninsula. And we do have a town bylaw on the books that says all of our parking lots are supposed to be paved. That being said, will of council is the will of council. Any further discussion? Call the vote. All those in favor on...
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. If that amendment is satisfactory, I would be looking for a mover and a seconder.
Okay. Councilor Bernarski, you will move. Seconder, Councilor Hildebrand, you will second. Thank you, gentlemen.
Can we have that red
Yes.
Maybe a removal of some word.
So this is for the amendment, and that council approve a design assignment in the amount of $80,000 to complete the parking lot design and prepare tender documents, enabling the town to have a shovel-ready project in place. Okay, sorry, so it's not pending, just having it in place. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Yes.
Council, okay. Any further discussion, comments? Not seeing any, call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. We would now be on to the main motion as amended, and I would be using the same mover and seconder from the amendment.
Okay, so the main motion as amended. Any comments, questions? Not seeing, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I have a motion put forth by Councillor Benarski, seconded by Councillor Eckert. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2026-0142 as it pertains to file numbers 26T19-01-2026 and AM03-2026, and that Council approve the draft plan of subdivision attached as Appendix A, subject to the conditions in Appendix B, and that Council approve the zoning bylaw amendment rezoning the lands from the zones. One moment, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
It's cut off on my paperwork.
Oh.
Just give me one moment.
Of course.
Thank you. And that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment rezoning the lands from the residential development RD and environmental protection 1 EP1 zones to the site-specific residential 2 R2 and open space holding OS-H zones. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I'll open the discussion to council. Any questions or comments? Councilor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Planning. I understand my comments may not be germane to the draft plan of subdivision, and it may be premature, but I understand that there was residential concerns about the safety and crosswalks that are proposed for this subdivision, and that information probably was not conveyed to the individuals involved. So I'm not sure whether the Director of Public Works is going to answer that question, or the Director of Planning would like to answer that question.
Thank you, through you,
Director.
Mr. Mayor, to Councillor. I'm actually going to ask Shannon to come up. We didn't receive a lot of feedback from the community on this development, but we did have some last-minute comments this morning that I think Shannon can address in terms of traffic.
Thank you.
Ms. Levac, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In response to Councillor Hildebrandt's questions about pedestrian connectivity through this subdivision, I think everyone was at the public meeting, but this is kind of one piece of the whole development area that's going to take place. So this particular subdivision that's before you today, it only includes 6 lots. We'll have sidewalks within that. But the larger picture that's going to happen once the additional lands are added will include, the fulsome picture will be a crossing that exists right now on Pelham Street, and then links with a crossing that will take you to Tanner Drive. And then there'll be sidewalk connectivity on this Stickles Street, which will extend through this subdivision. And eventually, when more property comes on board, there will be a pedestrian connection that will take people out to Line Avenue. There'll be a proper crossing on Line Avenue that will then get people to the Steve Bauer Trail safely. And then that will allow people to move all the way through this area, and vice versa from I think it's Rosewood or Timber Creek subdivision through to Pelham Street. So that's the large picture, and how what you're seeing today fits within that. Staff are looking at making sure that it is connected for active transportation and for people to get where they need to go safely.
Thank you so much. I think that allays the concerns the residents had with regard to safety for their children and safety for walking. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Thank you for those comments, Ms. LeBlanc. Any other questions or comments on this item? No? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to the presentation of bylaws. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that the following bylaws be ready first, second, third time and passed. 1. Bylaw number 36, 2026, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 4481-2022 as amended for the lands legally described as Part Township Lot 177 Thorold, Part 1, Part 3, Part 5, Plan 59R 17651 from the Residential Development RD and Environmental Protection 1 EP1 zones to the site-specific Residential 2 R2-176 and Open Space 177 holding OS 177H zones, Tanner Extension Phase 2. 2. Bylaw number 37, 2026, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 57, 2025, being a bylaw to delegate certain statutory powers and duties to the Corporation of the Town of Pelham to municipal staff. 3. Bylaw number 38, 2026, being a bylaw to accept 1 foot reserve described as blocks 58, 71, and 72 on Plan 59R 18576, part of lots 13 and 14, Plan 717, and parts 1 and 2 on Plan 59R-blank, Part Block 2, Registered Plan 59M 457, pursuant to the subdivision agreement for the Summersides Village Extension subdivision. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you. Any comments, questions on these items? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that Council resolve into a closed session to consider the following matters. 1. Closed session report 2026-0116, Ward 3, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board as pursuant to Section 239 2C of the Municipal Act 2001, and F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. 2. Closed session report 2026-0152, electricity matter. F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And K, a special position plan procedure criteria or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. 3. Closed session report 2026-0151, external consultation. F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. 4. Closed session report 2026-0115, external board/commission. C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before an administrative tribunal affecting the municipality or local board. F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiation carried on or to be carried on by or behalf of the municipality or local board. To you, Mr. Mayor, for discussion.
Thank you. Any discussion on moving in camera for discussion of these items? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? I see a motion carries. And as we get ready to move in camera, we will have a 10-minute break.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.